Hey, it's Sally Steele, and welcome to my show. For this week's show, I wanted to share my interview that I did with the legendary Billy Idol a few years back. Billy is so cool. Check it out and listen to what I said that made Billy Idol totally crack up.
Oh, hello, Sally.
Hi, Billy. How you doing? Is this kind of early for you today, or?
No, I'm all right. Actually, I've been up for a while.
Oh, good. Okay. Early riser in a rocker. That's strange. Okay.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get to talk to you here for a while, but I want to first ask you, how did you get into music? I mean, did you come from a musical background?
Actually, on my Irish side, my grandmother could play 14 instruments. She learned by ear, you know.
Wow.
She could play the violin, the piano, the clarinet, the accordion, she could play 14 instruments. She could pick up anything and get something out of it. Now, I'm not as musical as that. I'm a musical dunce, really, but somewhere in my background I do have some musical, something in the family somewhere.
Okay, so
my mother played a piano, but she didn't have one in the house when I was growing up. So.
Oh, okay. Well, so was that something you always wanted to do, was be in music?
Well, ever since I saw the Beatles in 1962-63, I started to dream about being in a group, being on stage in a group, writing your own songs and presenting them to people, and it just seemed that they were having an incredible amount of fun, and there was a huge music explosion. The Who, the Kinks, the Stones. It was so exciting. And England was very depressed in the early '60s, and rock and roll sort of brought it out of its depression. And music's always meant a lot. Rock and roll music, or dance music, or rap music, or whatever, has always meant a lot. Alternative music's always meant a lot in England. Music is really super important to English people, let alone the rest of the world, you know.
Okay. So you that was what you always wanted to do. There wasn't anything else that you were planning on doing as a career?
No, I mean, for a long time you just couldn't believe you could do it because, the level of musicianship got incredibly good during the late 70s and late 60s rather, and early 70s. It was almost a little bit daunting for someone like me, who's not the greatest musician, and it made you wonder how could you fit into this world where there were so many, really top-level musicians. So what was great about us starting punk rock was that we kind of changed all the rules.
Right.
And leveled the playing field where musical ability didn't matter quite so much. It came down much more to attitude and ideas. And your stance that you had about society became very important. And of course, in the mid-70s, 1976, England was in a terrible depression again, much worse than America was. And it was really our way of fighting the depression. Because there was a lot of, in England, there was a lot of, the government was coming down on people very hard, trying to control people, and they were really trying to stomp out any freedom of expression. And so punk rock was really our way of saying, you can't stop us, you can't stop us saying what we think, you can't control us, this is not a fascist police state, Margaret Thatcher.
Right. Well, you certainly found
Fuck
your
off,
niche.
Margaret Thatcher. In fact, thank God she's dead, that cow, we're so glad. She should only burn in hell, We're so glad she's dead, because that's who we were kind of fighting, those forces of oppression. And a lot of what we did in punk rock was deliberately to say something sort of social. Some groups were very political. I think my group, Generation X, a little bit more social politics, if you know what I I mean.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense. You certainly found your niche in punk rock. What kind of kid were you? I mean, were you a bully? I mean, I know you had a punk rock attitude. Were you an outcast or a bully?
No, I was never like that really. I just I'm more of a lover than a fighter.
Oh, I'd never know that.
You know, I'll fuck you to death first before I'll fight you to... No, I was more like... That's why I think I like music, and it was our way of expressing ourselves. Some people want to use some men want to use their fists, and but our way was to use guitars, use our brains, really, use our musical expression, use our thoughts and ideas and explore them and dig deep inside yourself to find that thing in you that was special, that you could sort of excite people with it, and it was a lot of fun discovering that, because, when we started out in punk rock, you had no idea if you had those abilities, or if we never thought about how long anything would last. We only did it for the moment. We only did things for that moment. We weren't thinking, this is going to go on forever. We were thinking, it's really just for that moment. So it's pretty weird to be sitting there a million years later still doing it. It's like,
right.
Well, I could never have imagined that's how long 36 years or whatever it is, 30... 1976. I know it's 40 years, 36 years later. Yeah.
Right, a very long career for you. So you had friends. You weren't like an outcast. You had your gang, and you all played music, right?
Well, I was. I always knew. I was always friendly with the. There was always sort of more leader type guys. But I would always be friendly with them, I wasn't the leader myself or anything, but, I'd always be friendly with the leader kind of people, and the thing was, we were gravitating towards music. That really was what was going on for us in England at the time, and I think throughout the world, really, at that moment for young people. There was so much. It was like a music revolution going on, and then I think we helped to keep that revolution going with punk rock a little bit,
Right. Now, when you met Steve Stevens, what was your first impression? Did you feel like, this is my guitarist and I know we're going to do something? What was your first impression?
Well, I really thought Steve was fantastic when I met him. I thought he was a really great guy, and of course, we had a really long conversation when I first met him, and in the end what we decided was I needed to put a group together. So he said, you know what, I'll help you put this group together and we'll just see how it goes. And we're still playing together 33 years later, whatever it is.
There was a brief separation, I think, between you guys in the 90s. Why was that?
I was probably taking too many drugs, and...
You never.
Yes, and sometimes your ego gets inflamed, and you had silly arguments, but they weren't arguments that were deep-seated. I think they were we were all a bit tired out in a way. We got a little bit tired. We'd been working really hard. And there's probably just that. There's a lot of strain and a lot of stress as well, trying to do what we were doing. And but we got back together, and he really is. He is such a great player. I mean, he can play anything, Steve Stevens. I can say to him, Steve, I want to do an opera, and he could do it. Or I want to do the simplest one-chord song in the world, and he can do it. Or I want you to play that Pendule, I don't know, whoever. He can play anything. He can be anybody, and and he's got his own style as well. And of course, he's got all those sound effects, which I don't know. They're just you can smoke a joint on stage and listen to them. It's like a whole experience in itself. So I don't know. I felt he took my ideas and just expanded them brilliantly, and it's a great dynamic relationship we've got.
Right.
It's a lot of fun in it too, because I think we both bring quite different things to our partnership.
If there was, I'm glad he's still playing with you. I love Steve. He's a great guy. Would you do anything different in your career or personal life now, looking back? Would you change anything? Do anything different?
Well, of course, you always think about some things that were silly at the time, or say that argument me and Steve had and we broke up for a bit. It's all a bit silly, really. But in the end, when you think about your life, you realise, well, those things probably had to happen. And so you wouldn't, even if you could change them, you wouldn't want to, because there must have been reasons why they happened. And it's just hard to remember what they were now or something. But you know there was. And you know, in a way, that's the way life is. Life doesn't go in a straight line. It's not linear. You know, you don't really know what's going to happen, and there's no way of controlling what happens. You just have to go with the flow and enjoy it, really, as much as you can while it's working, and make the most of it while it's happening, you know.
Steve told me a funny story, back in the early days. Can you tell me what was the funniest road story that happened in your career? Just first thing pops in your mind.
Well, we came out to Los Angeles to record the first Billy Idol album. We'd only really been in the hotel, the Sunset Marquis, for about a day, and I think I must have gone out at night, and I must have got a bit drunk, and it was about 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning or something. I was just about to drop kick the phone over the balcony when a security guard stopped and pulled his gun out and went, "Don't drop kick that phone," you know. And then the manager came up to my room, and they saw really, well, I'd only really been kicking the phone around the room. I hadn't really, I don't know why I was doing that, but hadn't really done much damage. So the hotel manager said, "Okay, all right, you just pay for the phone," and then he went to leave, but then he went, "Wait a minute, you've got other people in this hotel, haven't you?" And I went, "Yeah," and he went, "So let's go have a look at their rooms." And I just thought to myself, well, nobody else, if we've only been in this room one night, nobody else is going to be doing anything daft like me. And the first room we came to was Steve Stevens' room, and when his girlfriend opened the door, Steve was standing on a chair. He'd spent all night super gluing his pics to one wall and was on the second wall. So he was decorating the place with his guitar picks. So I just burst out laughing, and the manager just went, "You're out of here." I went, "I love this guy. He's crazier than me."
Oh, wow. And that's why you got thrown out of a hotel, because super gluing pics. That's it?
He'd done one whole wall, and then he was halfway through doing another wall. He'd super glued them to the wall. So.
Well, now, that's minor. I mean, like, I remember reading something somewhere about, you got kicked out of the country of Bangkok for
that
hotel
was a few years later. Yes, I definitely upped the ante.
What did you do? What did you do for them to take you out of the country?
I think I destroyed about 3 hotels, a jet ski. We were also just incredibly out of our minds on everything possible. I mean, you can get anything in Thailand.
Right. Okay.
And once you stop taking the illegal drugs, you find out you can get everything over the counter there. So.
Okay. Well, that would be dangerous.
And then eventually, yes, they had to get the Thai army to escort me to the airport to throw me out.
Oh, God. The Thai army. Okay, you do big.
I woke up on a hospital gurney with 3 soldiers either side of me marching along with their rifles out,
Wow. Okay, I think you top them all.
It was kind of funny at the time.
Okay.
Oh, it's funny now.
Well, cool. Well, that is great. I have a couple other questions. One thing, I did want to ask you. We had Steve Stevens out here to our Vegas Rocks Awards in 2011, and he's a great guy, and we're hoping you can join us this year. We'd like to have you be the headliner and honor you. Last year we had Sammy Hagar and David Coverdale. It was at the Joint and here in Las Vegas, and it was on Access TV, and we're going to be televised again this year. And if you could just kind of put it in your mind, we'd love to have you be our guest of honor that night. We've got a great lineup.
When is that?
It's August 25th. Are you on?
I think we're making a new record around that time.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. Once we do this little tour we're doing, we're going to start making a new record. So,
do you think you might be
able to do that? Maybe next year or something.
Okay, well, I'll definitely keep in touch with you. We'd definitely love to have you. Steve says, oh, Billy won't do that. He doesn't like to go out. So, must be tired.
I don't know about that.
I know, I was going to say, I hear all this. But anyway, I just thought I'd run that by you. So tell me what you're up to as far as your new album and what you're doing these days.
Well, yeah, we are planning on making a record in late August, September. And we've really just been writing a lot of songs and preparing a lot of ideas, and a lot of it's preparatory work so that when we get to the record we've got numerous ideas to draw on, Probably got about 20 ideas at the moment we can draw on. Now whether we'll really use all those 20 ideas, we might use bits and pieces of the ideas, you never know. Just you have to just gather ideas, lots of different ideas, and eventually you pick the best ones and work on those. But a lot of it, that's what we're doing. That's what we've been doing the last year or so, is really preparing this new record.
Oh, great! Awesome.
Yeah, Keep Out of Reach of Children, it's called.
Oh, okay. All right. I think we got time for maybe one more question. Do you think you would have not have become famous if it would have been for MTV, since it was so visual with your videos?
Well, possibly. I mean, that really, MTV did give me a massive platform in America. I mean, when I first put records out in America, we didn't put my picture on the cover because in those days, the radio, they thought if you had a punk rock style of look, you wouldn't sell advertising dollars. So so we kept my picture off Hot in the City, and then when White Wedding came out, we put my picture on it, and obviously they played Hot in the City because they didn't know who Billy Idol was. And it got to number 18, and then when we put White Wedding out, we put my picture on it, and they said, well, we don't play people who look like punk rockers, and but MTV had happened. I think we'd already had Dancing with Myself on MTV, and it was such a smash. College radio played White Wedding, and then people, MTV and college radio, and then people started to request my songs at the radio stations, and then they knew, the radio knew that there was people out there who liked what we did, and that changed everything, and then the 80s took off.
Great. Okay. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. I think they're going to cut me off. It's been about 20 minutes. I'm going to leave you with the time we met at the Roxy. It was at Steve Stevens' Atomic Playboys.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? Eddie Van Halen was there and everything. And I had met Eddie. I've always been in bands. I've been a singer all my life. And I was trying to get a record deal at that time. And I'd said the same thing to Eddie, and he reacted in a great way. And I went up to you and I asked the same question. I'll tell you what I asked. I said, hey, would you mind shaking my hand for good luck? I'm trying to get a record deal. And you did not react like Eddie. You just looked me up and down. You says, oh, you don't want my luck. I think that was after you had your motorcycle accident shortly after that.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. But I just stood there like a dope and wouldn't go away, and you're like, you ended up shaking my hand anyway, so.
Oh, there you are.
So, you're a great guy in my book. I write about that in the magazine. But I guess they're going to cut me off. Is there any last things you want to say to your fans in Vegas? I know you're going to be here next month.
Well, we're going to have a really great time. We've got a great show for you, and I'm bringing all my guns with me, you know.
Oh, great. Well, we can't miss that.
Yeah, we're going to be firing all our weapons, so.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Billy. I really appreciate it. I have 100 million questions, but, we'll save it for next time.
All right, darling. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Billy.
I love you, Billy. It was such a trip to go backstage and meet Billy. And his management said on the phone, "Oh, yes, Billy is expecting you, Miss Steele." Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune in next week for a new episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you on the streets of rock and roll.